Hi everyone, my name is Crystal Behe, and I am the author of the chapter Toss the Crown, Embrace the Claws in the book Speechless. Did you ever feel like you didn't fit in, no matter how hard you tried? All you ever wanted was to find your place in this world, your tribe, where you could just be you. Why is it so important to fit into the box that your family and society want you to fit in? Growing up, I only had one person in my life who bucked the system in every way and followed her heart no matter what. I want to share her message with you, proving that you are not alone. That tribe is there for you, and being true to yourself is what matters most. The rest will come. Above all, protect the ones you love with all your heart, including yourself. Growing up in a beauty pageant household was like living in a world of polished perfection, where every detail, from how we looked to how we acted, was under a microscope. Our mom's rules about dieting, rehearsing interview speeches, and spending hours making sure our hair looked flawless were as strict as they were exhausting. But my sister Susan, she was always different. At 15, she finally decided to break free from that mold, leaving behind the pageants to explore who she was outside of Mom's carefully curated world. Unlike our sister Sandy, Susan didn't have that perfect pageant smile or drive. She wasn't interested in being model thin or as academically focused. She didn't belong in that world. She didn't want to. There's a 20-year age gap between us, so a lot of her story happened before I was born. But I grew up hearing about how, in the early 80s in West Davie, our family home was a place where appearances were everything. Mom would have each of us practicing posing in front of mirrors, making sure we stood up straight, held our shoulders back, and smiled just so. But Susan, she had her own way of doing things. She'd roll her eyes when Mom wasn't looking, or sneak me a cookie whenever she had the chance. She didn't just like the pageant world. She actively rejected it. She liked what society sometimes labeled wrong. She preferred boys' clothes, listened to music classified as black music, and even dated black guys, a decision that wasn't well received back then. Her determination to be herself despite everything became an example for me to live authentically. When I was little, Susan wasn't around much. Mom worried about her being a bad influence, but I was fascinated by her boldness whenever I did get to see her. Susan was loud and fun, refusing to take crap from anyone, but she was also caring and kind, as long as others were kind to her. She was Daddy's girl, through and through, but our dad, Papa, as I called him, was away working a lot as a yacht captain, so he wasn't around to protect her from Mom's vision of what we should be. Susan lived her life unapologetically, and before she passed, she told me, always protect your kids and let them be whoever they want to be. Love them freely. Her words have stayed with me. She had specific loves: cats, SpongeBob, Elvis, and us, her family. Despite struggling with wanting Mom's acceptance, she never fully compromised herself. I remember her telling the kids, if I could go back, I'd just make sure you know that life's too short not to live the way you want. Eat what you like, be healthy, and listen to Elvis and Michael Jackson every day. Susan never let go of her 3-inch nails or her purple hair, never traded her style or identity for a golden crown. Some called her a wigger because she embraced the black community's culture, but that didn't bother her. That's where she found acceptance, where no one cared about diets or perfection, and her lack of book smarts didn't matter. Yes, she wanted Mom's acceptance. What daughter doesn't? Eventually, she found some peace. When she left an abusive relationship and returned home, Mom welcomed her back. And when she found love with a kind black man, our family gave him a beautiful wedding. Susan was always about love, acceptance, and being true to herself. In the end, she taught me more than she could ever have imagined. Susan's story didn't end with her leaving the pageant world. It was the beginning of a lifelong journey of defying expectations and challenging norms. Our mom was unrelenting in her pursuit of perfection, but Susan pushed back, especially when it came to embracing her own version of beauty and success. Her friends were like her, bold, unique, and often misunderstood by mainstream standards. They were artists, musicians, and kids who didn't fit into the carefully curated mold our mother wanted for us. Susan became a magnet for people who saw the world differently, and they were like a second family to her. In a household that prized appearances, Susan's unapologetic authenticity was like a rebellious spark that couldn't be contained. She was the girl who would wear combat boots with her prom dress, and the one who'd sing her heart out to Michael Jackson in the middle of a grocery store, earning disapproving glances from strangers. I think part of her was fueled by desire to show Mom and everyone else that there was no single way to be worthy, lovable, or beautiful. One memory I hold close is from when I was around 10, and Susan decided to teach me how to dance. She had the living room stereo blasting Michael Jackson and Elvis Presley, two artists she adored. I remember her laughing as she tried to show me some moves, her purple hair bouncing as she spun around. She didn't just teach me to dance. She taught me to ignore what people thought and have fun in the moment. I remember her telling me, dancing isn't about how you look, it's about how you feel. Don't let anyone make you feel small because you're different. When I got older, I learned about her first love, a man who brought her both joy and heartbreak. He was also her introduction to the struggles of loving someone from a different race in a family and society that often disapproved. Their relationship wasn't easy. They faced prejudice and challenges from the outside and inside our family. Our mom's disapproval weighed heavily on her, but Susan never let go of him easily. They fought to be together for a long time, and even after they separated, it left a mark on her. She loved deeply and fiercely, and though it sometimes brought her pain, she told me it was worth every moment. For all her rebellious spirit, Susan carried the weight of her conflicts with her parents. I'd sometimes see her sitting quietly deep in thought, and I knew she was thinking about her mom's expectations. Despite the hurt she felt from their rejection, she wanted her acceptance. The truth was, she loved Mom and Dad deeply, but she couldn't sacrifice herself to be the person they wanted her to be. She wanted their love without having to give up her essence. When she finally left home, she moved to a neighborhood that was far removed from the polished suburban life we'd known. There, Susan found a place where she could be herself without judgment. Her friends became her new family, and she thrived. She worked odd jobs, from waitressing to singing in small clubs, always with a crowd of supportive friends cheering her on. She still called me often, reminding me to stay true to myself. I think she wanted me to learn from her battles, to see that it was possible to live a fulfilling life on one's own terms. Years later, after her first marriage ended, Susie returned to our home for a time. By then, I was a teenager and saw her in a new light. She was bruised from her relationship, both emotionally and physically, but she never lost her sense of humor or warmth. Susan's resilience was a beacon of strength for me. She taught me that even in heartbreak, there was room for healing and self-discovery. As she got older, she found love again, this time with a man who truly understood her. They were perfect fit, each accepting the other's quirks and past. For once, our family welcomed him with open arms, and they supported Susan in her new life. On her wedding day, she didn't wear a traditional gown. Instead, she chose a dress that was uniquely her, brightly colored with a hint of sparkle. I'll never forget the smile on her face. She looked radiant, proud of her journey, and finally at peace with who she was. Her advice stayed with me over the years, especially as I became a mother myself. I think back to her words often, especially when raising my girls. Don't ever let anyone tell you who you should be, she'd say. Love who you want, live how you want, and don't worry about fitting into anyone else's box. Susan's memory remains woven into my life, a reminder that real beauty lies in authenticity, and that Happiness can only come from living in alignment with who you truly are. Now, when I think about her, I remember the countless lessons she taught me. She was more than just a black sheep. She was a trailblazer, unafraid to live with boldness, laughter, and love. She showed me that we all deserve acceptance, whether we find it in our family or create it with those who embrace us for who we are. Her spirit lives on in the love I give to my own children, in the freedom I grant them to be themselves, and in the family that I've created. In her honor, celebrates individuality. I'm grateful for the sister who showed me what it means to break free and live without limits. Even though she's no longer with us, my older sister Susan had a message to share, and I refuse to allow her to remain speechless any longer. Thank you for listening.